Okay, so let's talk about the word risk. It sounds a little scary, right? Kind of brings up feelings of danger or, things going wrong. But what if we looked at it a different way? Risk is really just a part of the deal of being alive. You can't avoid it. So the trick isn't to get rid of it, it's to understand it. And in the next few minutes, we're going to give you the playbook to do exactly that.
So let's jump right in with a big question that really gets to the heart of it all. What's the real difference between placing a bet on a stock and having a tree crash through your roof? I mean, both have risk, both could cost you money, but as you're about to see, they are worlds apart.
And boom, here's the breakdown. On one hand, you've got speculative risk. This is your calculated bet, investing in a company, playing poker. There's a chance you could win, but yeah, you could also lose. Because you might gain something, it's not insurable. Then on the other hand, you have pure risk. This is the unexpected disaster, a car accident, getting sick. There is absolutely zero chance of gain here. It's all downside, and that is the only kind of risk that insurance is designed to handle.
But hold on. Even if it's a pure risk, it doesn't automatically mean you can get insurance for it. Insurers have this sort of secret checklist, a set of 6 rules that any event has to pass to be insurable. Think of it like the rule book for the whole game. Let's crack it open.
First things first, the loss has to be accidental. It has to be totally random and outside of your control. It's got to be something that just happens to you. An insurer will absolutely cover you for a surprise illness, but they are not going to pay out if you intentionally cause the problem yourself just to get the money. This rule is what keeps the whole system honest.
Next, the loss has to be definite and measurable. You can't just say, something bad happened and it felt expensive. It needs to be specific. The car accident happened at 2 p.m. on Main Street, and the repair shop says it's going to cost exactly $2,000. You need that proof, that clarity. It keeps everything based on hard facts. Which brings us to our third rule, and it starts with just one number, 18%.
So what does 18% mean? It means the loss has to be predictable. Now, that doesn't mean they know you are going to have an accident. Not at all. It means that across a huge group of people, they can predict how often something is likely to happen. They know, for example, that about 18% of car crashes involve distracted driving. It's called the law of large numbers, and by analyzing data from millions of people, they can get incredibly accurate at forecasting risk.
Rule number 4 is all about scale. The loss can't be catastrophic, at least not for the insurer. Think about it. An event like a war or a nuclear disaster would affect millions of people all at once. The claims would be so massive, they'd bankrupt every insurance company on the planet. So those kinds of huge, widespread events are just too big to insure.
And that leads right into rule number 5. For that law of large numbers to work, insurers need what's called substantial exposures. That's just a fancy way of saying they need a lot of similar stuff to insure, like thousands of houses or millions of cars. If you try to insure a one-of-a-kind item, well, there's no data to predict the risk, so it's almost impossible to do.
And finally, the whole thing just has to make financial sense. Rule number 6, it has to be economically feasible. The premium you pay has to be affordable, and it has to seem small compared to the giant loss it's protecting you from. I mean, think about a healthy 45-year-old paying less than $500 a year for a $250,000 life insurance policy. Yeah, that trade-off makes perfect sense.
So, once a risk ticks all 6 of those boxes, how do companies figure out what to charge you? Well, it's not random. They have a system for grading your specific risk, and that grade is directly tied to the price you'll pay.
And honestly, the system is pretty straightforward. You pretty much fall into one of 3 buckets. If you're a preferred risk, that means you've got a lower than average chance of something going wrong, so you get a lower price. Awesome. Most people land in the standard group. Average risk, standard price. But if you're considered substandard, you've got a higher potential for loss, and that means you'll pay more, or you might even be declined. It really all boils down to where you fit on this chart.
Okay, so we've covered what risk is and how insurers look at it. But what about you? Are you just supposed to sit back and hope for the best? No way. You have your own powerful 5-part playbook for managing risk. It's called the STAR method, and it puts you in control. The S in STAR stands for sharing. It's the idea that you don't have to carry a risk all by yourself. The perfect example is co-insurance. You know, where the health insurance company pays 80% of the bill and you pick up the other 20%? You're sharing that risk.
T is for transfer, and this is the absolute core of what insurance is. When you buy a policy, you are literally transferring the financial weight of a huge potential loss over to the insurance company.
For a small, predictable payment, your premium, you get to hand off that giant, unpredictable risk to them.
Next up, A is for avoidance. This is the simplest one of all. If you want to eliminate a risk completely, you just don't do the thing. Don't want to get in a skydiving accident? Easy. Don't go skydiving. It's 100% effective, but let's be real, you can't avoid every risk in life, like driving your car.
The first R stands for reduction. This is all about being proactive, taking steps to make a loss less likely or less bad if it does happen. Installing smoke alarms doesn't mean you'll never have a fire, but it hugely reduces the potential damage. It's all about damage control. And the final R is for retention. This is when you make a conscious choice to accept some of the risk yourself. When you choose a $1,000 deductible for your car insurance, you're saying, okay, I'll handle the first $1,000 of damage. You are retaining that piece of the risk, and you usually get a lower premium for it. The key here is that it's a deliberate strategy.
So, sharing, transferring, avoiding, reducing, and retaining. That's your toolkit. This is what turns you from someone who is just a passenger hoping for the best into an active driver who is managing the uncertainty in your own life. You get to pick the right tool for the right situation.
And that really brings us to the final thought I want to leave you with. Just take a second and think about your own life. Which risks are you holding on to because you made a conscious choice, like picking a higher deductible? And maybe more importantly, which ones are you holding on to just because you haven't really thought about it? Understanding that difference, well, that's the first step to taking control.